Oil prices shot back up to over $100 a barrel overnight as Iran focuses more of its attacks on fuel, tankers, fuel depots, infrastructure across the region. Just take a look at this video from Bahrain. This morning, the International Energy Agency is sounding new alarms, saying that the war in the Middle East is causing the, quote, largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Main reason, oil has been stuck in the Middle East for more than a week because of right there what you're looking at, the Strait of Hormuz. The IEA says the flow of crude and oil products through the Strait of Hormuz has reduced to a trickle. Now President Trump is trying to blunt the impacts of this, authorizing the release of 172 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's part of a broader release of a record 400 million barrels agreed to by the 32-nation International Energy Agency.
CNN business executive editor David Goldman is here with us now. You wrote that the IEA releasing 400 million barrels of oil is like smashing the brake in case of emergency glass. But what will it mean? Is that enough to sort of make things easier for people and businesses, or is it just a drop in the bucket, so to speak?
Well, it's clearly not having an impact right now. I mean, what John was just saying is so key. The only thing that the oil market cares about is getting the Strait of Hormuz back open. This was an extraordinary release of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and it didn't have an impact at all on oil prices. The fact that we went back above $100 last night kind of tells you everything you need to know. It's just not going to help unless we get that strait back open.
I'm curious how long, if this goes on for a few more weeks or months, how long before there's a breaking point where it's very hard to go back? It takes a long time for supply chains to recover, as we saw when it came to COVID.
Yeah, duration is key here, because the longer this goes on, the more pain for you and me. It's not just that we're filling our tanks at $3.60 today. That could go to $4, but truckers are filling their trucks with diesel, which is closing in on $5, and all the stuff that's on those trucks is going to be more expensive for you and me. The businesses that are loading stuff onto trucks, that costs more money for them, and they're paying all these tariff costs. You think that they're going to eat the cost of the fuel surcharges? I don't think so. Those are costs that you and I are going to pay too.
Ultimately, how high do you think this is going? We're now, when it hits above 100 a barrel, we all feel it. Where do you see this going if this continues to be blocked?
Well, there is other oil in the world. I mean, We're a huge producer of oil in the United States, the largest in the world, actually. And so there's a point at which, you can't make oil more expensive and people will continue to pay for it. Everyone seems to think that $150 a barrel is the peak for this if the strait is just permanently closed. So, that's $5 gas, that's maybe $5.50 gas. So, you have to wonder how much longer this is going to go and if we're going to get to that point. But that's about how high this could go.
Yeah, if the average is $5 or $5.50 in California, that means $7, $8, and we're starting to see some of those numbers creep up there in places like Los Angeles. Thank you so much, David. Really insightful. A lot of people worrying about this very particular issue that affects literally everybody in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Happy to help.
Appreciate it.
Joining us right now is the Energy Secretary of the United States to talk about this. Chris Wright. Secretary, thank you for coming in. Does this announcement about the drawdown of SPRO and with the IEA mean the problem is solved in your view?
Oh, no, this does not mean it's solved. The problem is Iran's behavior, Iran's military, Iran's threatening for American troops, their neighbors, energy markets for 47 years. But the disruption of oil, temporary disruption of oil through the Straits of Hormuz, that's what the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is for. So as we have a shortage of market coming through that avenue, we're going to bring oil to market through other avenues to get through a few weeks of a short-term dislocation to get to a much better place on the other side.
You say a few weeks. That's the view from the United States, maybe the president. But as we've seen overnight, Iran has a say in how long this goes on. Israel has a say in how long this goes on as well. With the IEA's announcement of releasing a third of emergency reserves yesterday, reaction overnight was oil went up over 100 again. The message being then that the only thing that matters is Hormuz. Can the United States declare victory, success, without the Strait of Hormuz being reopened?
No, the Straits of Hormuz needs to be and will be reopened. The U.S. military is there to solve a long-term problem, which is Iran's had 47 years an ability to threaten the Straits of Hormuz, and not long from now, Iran would have nuclear arms and a massive missile program surrounding that. This was a can that could not be kicked down the road one more administration. We need to defang, and we are defanging Iran's abilities to threaten American troops in the areas, its allies, its neighbors, and global energy markets. So yes, you've got to go through short-term pain to solve a long-term problem. This is bold leadership of President Trump. This is what the world needs.
But understanding this going in, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve was at about half-ish, I'll say, full when the war started. The president had campaigned, Secretary, on refilling the Strategic Reserve right up to the top, his words. Why go to war in the Middle East with a depleted emergency reserve?
Well, number one, as we bring this oil out, it will be exchanges. We'll pull out 170 million barrels and put over 200 million barrels back in at no cost to the taxpayer. Because the price of oil in the short term is higher right now than the price of oil a year down the road.
But that doesn't alleviate the crisis today.
Help.
You can only put back, the flow rate can only be about 2 million, and that's being optimistic, barrels a day into the global system. So you've got a long time to untwist this problem, no matter what.
And of course, this is in coordination with 30 countries. The real issue right now is Asian refineries. That's where oil coming out of the Gulf goes to. So Japan is releasing at a much higher relative rate to their imports. It's the Asian refineries that we want to keep running and tamp down the price of oil to the extent we can through this few weeks crisis. President Trump's thinking long term. He's not thinking about next month. He's thinking about what's best for the American people, what's best for the American economy, and what brings safety to our troops in the region and brings prosperity to the Middle East. That is a troubled region that needs to have its one major problem fixed.
Secretary, the immediate focus is very clearly in some part and needs in likely becoming more part getting the Strait of Hormuz open. The Biden administration, when faced with threats to shipping in a different regard, they formed a naval coalition with many countries to help protect shipping in the Red Sea when an Iranian proxy fired at ships. Why aren't you doing the same here when success hinges on reopening the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we will and are doing the same thing. But right now, all of our military assets are focused on degrading, destroying Iran's ability to threaten its neighbors, to threaten our troops. So we're destroying their ability to produce missiles, to produce a nuclear program, to produce weapons of all kinds. Not just their existing weapons, their ability to produce those weapons. You will see the United States working with other nations to allow the return of traffic through the Straits of Hormuz. That's coming. We're less than 2 weeks into this 47-year-long conflict. So, yes.
But I've heard from many a smart person, though, who worked in previous administrations, though, if it was safe for the U.S. Navy to escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, they would be doing so right now.
All of our military assets right now are focused on destroying Iran's ability to wage war and terrorize the neighborhood. When we can afford some additional assets to move tankers through the Straits of Hormuz, we will do that. That's coming.
More ships were struck in the Strait overnight. The tankers on fire in the port of Oman. Add it all up. Are we in the midst of a severe global oil crisis, Secretary?
We're in the midst of a significant disruption in the short term to fix the security of energy flow for the long term.
How hard is the pain and how much are people going to have to endure? Gas prices are going up, jet fuel prices are jumping, and CEOs are saying that ticket prices are also going to go up. Iran just said that the world should be ready for oil at $200 a barrel. You don't agree with Iran on anything, but do you agree that people need to be prepared for that?
We're going through short-term energy disruption for just huge long-term gain. You're seeing Iran's behavior.
Could
They're
that
attacking
hit? Could
every
short-term
country in the
mean
region.
$200 a barrel?
I would say unlikely, but we are focused on the military operation and solving a problem. I'm not going to guess on short-term trading. That's based on psychology more than flows of oil. The world is very well supplied with oil right now. Thanks to President Trump's leadership, we're by far and away the world's largest oil producer, by far and away the world's natural gas producer. Both of those are growing. We've been moving into an age of energy security, and we're fixing the huge overhang on global energy security, which is Iran's behavior and Iran's arsenal.